I think I know why adults are not really interested in fantasy anymore. Recently, I felt like I was not interested in it anymore. I could not read any books, play video games, and sometimes I wasn't even interested in my own daydreams. But why? I think it's a protective measure. You know, the people around me, they somehow have cars, know what they want to do in their life, can travel, and seem to have the money for all of that. Guess who is different? The pressure that stems from this is insane. I could not seem to focus on anything, because my mind was always on the future. It needs to be on the future lest I don't survive in this society. Fantasy does not help with that, but I do not want it to be like this. Recently, I even made a video about fantastical stories and why adults should read them. But all of a sudden, I see everyone's security concerning their future, and seemingly from one moment to another, it's all gone. Even though I just talked about writing in another video, 2 weeks past I have completely different thoughts and can't even seem to focus on my own book. That's terrible, because it appears that writing will not be a source of income for me. Perhaps one day it is YouTube scripts, but not fantastical stories. Perhaps that is good. I still have the desire to write at least one book in my lifetime, but this creative hobby of mine will now not turn into a source of pressure, because it won't be my job. So, is there anything that can be done about this loss of interest in creativity in the adult life? Because I think that creativity is a fundamental part of making human life enjoyable. However, the answer might not be an easy one. We need to survive in society, so we need to work on it and on our lives. Even if your job is not something creative, if it's not completely unbearable, then try to cherish it, because that means that your creative hobby will not give you much pressure. At least not as much pressure as it would if it were your job. A wonderful mind does not need to be connected to a public social life. You should also take breaks. I, for example, took a break from my video game to kind of reset my mind regarding it. And I will also not force myself to write my book. I am really sure that I will get back to it. It is not supposed to be a source of pressure. Now, another important thing is to realize that despite your job and your future being super important, they do not make up your whole life. Schedule times where you can daydream or read or focus on anything awe-inspiring without having to think about your work. I think if you are grateful for these times, your work will also become much more bearable, for there will be something that you look forward to. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is how society makes perfectionists of people. It starts in school. If you don't do your homework, you are less worth. If you get a bad grade, you are stupid. But such a logic does not apply to creativity. Creativity is not about making something perfect, or flawless, or correct, but about the making in itself. It is about the wonder you feel when your mind makes a new connection and something sparks from it that is uniquely yours. Unfortunately, the mindset taught in school continues in most people's work life. You have to do things. You can't just sit around and just think. Actually, that's okay. I mentioned scheduling times for creativity. Perhaps these will be even more worth it with the contrast of your job or school. They need you to complete tasks, but your creativity is allowed to bring forth the worst ideas possible. And they are still something that you should be proud of. Making new connections and creating something can be so fulfilling. Thus, I believe that especially adults have a need for it. Recently, I did not have my interest in. Well, I was going to be very different. difficult. Yes, difficult, very difficult. This creative hobby will certain you, as much, not as much. You should also take a break. Interesting grammar. According, creativity is not about Murphy taught in school, continues in most